Hi, welcome again. In today's video, I am going to concentrate on EQ, otherwise known as emotional intelligence, and explore exactly how it can substantially improve your communication with other people. It's an area of self-development that is a key skill if, for example, you're trying to progress in your career. Maybe you've been promoted into a management, leadership or director role, in which case your communication skills become even more important. But beyond that, an adept communicator is someone who's able to interact with others in a positive and assertive manner, and it tends to mean that you're going to enjoy greater success, better relationships, whether they're professional or personal. Hi, Leslie Hornsby here. Welcome to my channel where I focus on communication skills, coaching tips using NLP techniques. You know, life coaching is all about living a more fulfilled life by taking charge of your thinking, your emotions and your behaviour. And if you'd like to know more, just please click subscribe to get future videos on a regular basis. And if you think life coaching might help you, I'm more than happy to talk things through with you in a sort of preliminary discussion. Just use the link I've added below and you can make an obligation-free telephone appointment. I think what's interesting is that EQ is not about IQ. There have been several studies that demonstrate that how individuals with purely high IQs may possess a great range of intellectual interests and abilities, but they actually have quite a lot of difficulty dealing with their own emotions and the emotions of others. And this is significant because EQ represents a number of intangible characteristics such as SelfMotivation, impulse control, the ability to regulate your emotions, as well as empathise with other people. And the fact is that it can have considerable effect on a person's accomplishments in life. It's often the case that those with high levels of emotional intelligence excel socially, appear outgoing and cheerful, are less likely to be fearful or worried, and demonstrate care and empathy in their relationships. It's probably no surprise then that for some people EQ just comes naturally, but for the rest of it, it has to be cultivated. How you master EQ is dependent on how well you learn what drives your emotions, and in doing so, you're then not only able to effectively recognise what you're feeling, but choose how you wish to react and behave. Why is this important? Simply because your emotions are directly linked to how you communicate. So naturally it begs the question of what is emotional intelligence and how does it relate to communication? So the dictionary definition of EQ, which by the way stands for emotional quotient if you're not sure, is the ability to understand, use and manage your own emotions in positive ways to relieve stress, communicate effectively, empathise with others, overcome challenges and diffuse conflict. Daniel Goleman, an American psychologist, helped popularise emotional intelligence, and he suggests that there are 5 key elements to it. These include self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and finally, social skills. It's really no surprise that many aspects of EQ affect how we communicate with other people, and these include a curiosity about others, the ability to read somebody else's emotional state, and a talent for neutralising toxic people by not allowing their anger to fuel a tense situation. Improving EQ is about managing your emotions so that they don't dictate your behaviour. This kind of self-control and self-awareness is key to helping you communicate really effectively, and it's no surprise that this skill is hugely important in the workplace as well as in our personal relationships. So whether it's about imparting knowledge, allowing inclusive interaction, understanding the motivation of other people, as well as recognising that different people may well have different styles of communication, and all this can contribute to your ability to be effective, not only in creating beneficial working relationships with your colleagues, but enjoying deeper, more lasting relationships with family and friends. In order then to pinpoint the behaviours that relate to emotional intelligence, I'm going to drill down and take a look at them through Daniel Goleman's 5 domains, one at a time. First off then, knowing one's emotions, which is the same as saying self-awareness really. You probably recognise that we deal with our emotions either by being aware of them, engulfed by them, or accepting of them. And those of us who are aware of our emotions are able to manage them more easily because we're able to recognise when and why we feel a particular emotion at any given time. And then we're able to reflect on these emotions and rationalise them. Conversely, for those that are engulfed by emotion, there's often a lack of self-awareness, which often results in becoming lost and even overwhelmed by your feelings. It's not about changing what you feel either, but rather just being clear about what your moods are and what's driving your behaviour. This kind of insight can be key in determining what decisions you make, a bit like trusting your gut, and getting to grips with your emotional responses allows for greater certainty and confidence in how you feel about the decisions that you make throughout your life. The next segment of Goldman's domain map is self-regulation, which is about managing your emotions. Let's take, for example, a key emotion that can have a powerful effect on us, which is anger. It can easily escalate, and if left unchecked, it has the capacity to overcome reason. The strategies for managing anger include taking time to reflect on a situation, finding distraction, whether that means taking a long walk, doing some kind of exercise, or maybe working with relaxation techniques. A lack of self-awareness of what and why things trigger your anger is when you find it less easy to cool off. And if you're a worrier, this too is an emotion that can, without careful management, spiral out of control. Chronic worry can lead to an intensifying cycle, possibly resulting in the development of phobias, obsessions, compulsions, and even panic attacks. It is also responsible for worsening feelings of melancholy and depression. Just as with anger, worry can be controlled through self-awareness, recognizing its onset and the pattern that you fall into, and applying relaxation techniques, for example. It's also useful at this stage to mention that beyond this kind of self-help, talking things through with a professional life coach is a really good way to begin to deconstruct your thinking, learn to alter destructive thinking patterns so that they no longer affect you negatively. The advantage of being able to manage your emotions is that you can more easily rebound from setbacks and frustrations, whilst those struggle to master their feelings are often faced with destructive feelings of distress and anger. Moving on then, the third domain segment is motivation. This is a biggie for many of us, and unsurprisingly, it's very closely linked to struggles with procrastination. I don't think it's any great surprise that managing your emotions is key when reaching for a goal, as well as improving levels of attention or mastering a skill, capitalising on your creativity and improving self-motivation. When we're anxious, angry or depressed, trying to learn new things is much more difficult. I had one delegate back in the day on a training course. She was so nervous and anxious that I just knew the chances of her learning anything was pretty much zero. I had to take her to one side, I had to talk her down, work through some of the anxiety so that she could begin to rationalise and reduce her fear. Personally, I remember myself getting so nervous before my exams at university that I know with absolute certainty back then I didn't perform as well as I could have, just because I was too anxious and preoccupied about failing rather than concentrating on the exam questions. So the emotions I've described can very often overpower your concentration because your cortisol levels rise in your blood and it affects your brain chemistry, so that your memory becomes adversely affected, you feel overwhelmed, and then even the simplest task such as reading a sentence becomes difficult. When you have a positive motivation, however, the reverse is true. So self-motivation feels good when it's in full swing. You're likely to feel pleasure from performing a task and only experience sort of a healthy degree of anxiety mitigated by feelings of optimism or hope. And if you've ever experienced those moments when you are firing on all cylinders, sometimes people describe it as, finding my flow, this is when you're achieving peak performance, when you're fully absorbed in the moment. This state of flow or being in the zone is representative of those moments when you have perfect control over the task at hand, you're able to unconsciously respond to changing demands and receive positive self-feedback in the form of pleasure and relaxation. Achieving a flow state enables outstanding performance of all types, and those who have this skill tend to be more highly productive and effective in any enterprise they take on. Next segment, the fourth segment, is focusing on having empathy. Mastering empathy allows you to recognize emotions in others. Empathy, or the ability to perceive the subjective experience of other people, is developed from a self-awareness. If you're more understanding of your own emotions, you're likely to be more adept at understanding the feelings of others. The development of empathy begins in infancy through the interaction between parent and child. A parent demonstrates empathy to their child by showing them that they know what the child is feeling. Now, parents who lack empathy with their children during infancy can affect their emotional development, so it becomes dysfunctional. And if you look at studies, they have shown that violent criminals often have a background of emotional neglect and a lack of emotional care from parents during infancy and childhood. Similarly, orphans who don't receive regular empathetic one-to-one reactions with adults around them often grow up lacking empathy themselves. Those of us who are empathetic are more attuned to the subtle social signals that indicate what others need or want, making you proficient in occupations such as caring professions, teaching, sales, and of course, management. And the last part of the EQ domain is about social skills and handling relationships. Our interpersonal skills are essential in greasing the wheels of our relationships with other people. Often the exchange of emotions is subtle and virtually unnoticeable, but these are emotional signals and are essential in interpersonal interaction. Those that are poor at receiving these cues can experience difficulties and problems in their relationships. Being a good communicator with well-developed EQ, it leads to being skilled at organising groups, negotiating solutions, personal connection, and social analysis. Being emotionally intelligent is just not about being popular or gaining approval either. This is about being able to please others while staying true to yourself without compromising your own beliefs and values. The ability to initiate and maintain relationships is due in large part to your skill in managing the emotions of those around you. The actions that we take in life are mostly based on emotion and emotional intelligence. It makes sense when individuals have a great sense of communication and organisation skills that it leads to having the ability to make proper decisions and interactions with other people. What you learn from your emotions will allow you to pursue the lifestyle that you want to live and create more of what you want in your life rather than what you don't want. Emotional intelligence is a trait that can be nurtured and strengthened. And not developing it for many means that they end up lacking loving relationships, internal happiness, and social isolation. Whilst it may have been overlooked in the past, emotional intelligence is now commonly acknowledged as an important part of someone's personal development. And as I've discussed in today's videos, there are strategies like maintaining emotional self-awareness and enhancing your understanding of other people's emotions and motivations. These are just some of the ways that you can achieve higher EQ. And it's worth pointing out at this stage that, like most self-improvement strategies, you may have to try a few different things before you find what is most helpful for you. I'd say that often multiple things together can be effective in improving EQ. And of course, getting some help from a life coach or a mentor is always beneficial. So there you have it. I hope this video has given you a little bit of insight into what constitutes EQ and some ideas on what you can do to develop it for yourself. And if you have any thoughts about EQ, I'd love to hear them, so why not take a moment and share your comments below. Finally, if you think you'd like help developing your EQ, then by all means, just get in touch. You can use the contact link that I've added below to this video. And if you think life coaching might help with other issues that you have, whether that is about working towards a general change in your life or how you think, something more specific like dealing with mental blocks and limiting beliefs, then again, just use that same link and you can get in touch with me for a 30-minute obligation-free appointment. And for the NLP enthusiasts among you, I've also included a free guide to 3 brilliant NLP techniques that you might like to try. You just use the link that I've added below to download the PDF. And don't forget, click subscribe if you want to get more of these videos on this YouTube channel, because I post each and every week. In the meantime, I hope you can join me again next time with more help and advice on leading a more fulfilled life. But thanks again for your company, and I really look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.